The golden rays of the afternoon sun filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow across Amy's room. She sat on the edge of her bed, the open jacket of Jacob lying beside her. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the small, velvet box she'd found in its pocket. She flipped the lid open, revealing a ring that sparkled with 1,000 promises. "Oh my God," she whispered to herself, her heart pounding with excitement. "He's going to prepare." Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, and she quickly grabbed it, dialing Diane's number with eager fingers. "Hello." Diane's voice was cheerful but tinged with surprise at the unexpected call. "Diane, you won't believe what I just found." Amy's voice was a mix of excitement and disbelief. "What is it? Tell me," Diane urged, her curiosity piqued. "It's a ring, Diane, Jacob's ring. In his jacket, he's going to propose," Amy blurted out, barely containing her joy. There was a brief pause before Diane replied, "Amy, are you sure? Maybe it's just a ring." "You know, not that kind of ring." Amy rolled her eyes, even though Diane couldn't see it. "No, Diane, it's the ring. It's gorgeous. I can't believe this is happening." Diane's voice softened. "Wow, Amy. That's incredible. But aren't you jumping to conclusions? Maybe he's just carrying it for someone else." Amy frowned slightly. "No way. It has to be for me. We've talked about this, remember? And Christmas is just around the corner. It's perfect." "You're probably right," Diane conceded. "So, what's the plan? Do you have any idea how he's..." Amy's mind raced with images of romance and perfection. "I have the perfect scenario. It's Christmas Eve, there's snow outside, we're under the Christmas tree, and he gets down on one knee. It's just..." Diane chuckled. "Always the romantic, aren't you? Just remember, Amy, not everything goes as planned. Just enjoy the moment however it comes." Amy smiled, her heart swelling with hope and love. "I know, but a girl can dream, right? And this is going to be the most romantic proposal ever." Their conversation continued, filled with plans and giggles, dreams and cautious advice. Amy's mind was already dancing in the future, envisioning the moment that would change her life forever. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across her room, a part of her couldn't help but wonder if reality would be as kind as her dreams. The world outside was a canvas of white, with snowflakes gently drifting down from the grey, wintry sky. Inside her cosy living room, Amy sat curled up on the couch, a steaming mug of cocoa in hand, lost in a daydream. The Christmas tree in the corner twinkled with lights and ornaments, casting a warm, festive glow. Diane sat opposite her, knitting a scarf, her fingers moving deftly. "So, have you told Jacob about your dream proposal yet?" she asked, not looking up from her work. Amy shook her head, her eyes still fixed on the tree. "No, I want it to be a surprise. Besides, I'm sure he has something planned." Diane set her knitting aside and looked at Amy, a smile playing on her lips. "I know you, Amy. You've probably planned every detail in your head." Amy's face lit up. "Okay, picture this. We're at this beautiful, secluded cabin in the mountains called Winter Fairytale. It's New Year's Eve, snow is falling outside, the fireplace is crackling. Just Jacob and me, alone in our little winter wonderland." Diane raised an eyebrow. "Sounds expensive and very specific." Amy nodded enthusiastically. "It is, but I've been saving up. It's going to be worth it. Imagine, at midnight, under the stars and the snow, he proposes. It's like something out of a movie." Diane laughed. "You and your fairy tales, Amy. Just don't get your hopes up too high. Jacob might have other plans for New Year's." Amy's smile faltered slightly. "I know, but I can't help it. I want our engagement to be special, memorable." There was a moment of silence before Diane spoke again, her voice gentle. "Amy, it will be special because it's about you and Jacob, not the setting or the timing. Don't lose sight of what truly matters." Amy sighed, a mix of hope and apprehension in her eyes. I know you're right, but I can't shake this feeling. This is going to be the start of our forever, Diane. It has to be perfect. Diane reached over and squeezed Amy's hand. It will be perfect, no matter how it happens, because it's yours and Jacob's story. The rest of the evening was spent in a blend of laughter and heartfelt conversations, with Amy's dreams of a perfect proposal under the Christmas tree and Diane's pragmatic, yet supportive, words, as the night grew deeper and the snow outside piled higher. Amy's heart clung to the hope of a fairy tale proposal, a beautiful beginning to her forever with Jacob. The cafe where Amy and Jacob decided to meet was bustling with the usual morning crowd. Amy, wrapped in her warmest scarf, waited anxiously, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. She glanced at the door every time it opened, her heart skipping a beat each time. Finally, Jacob walked in, his cheeks red from the cold, a distracted look on his face. "Hey, sorry I'm late." "The traffic was a nightmare," he said, giving her a quick peck on the cheek before sitting down. "It's okay," Amy replied, trying to sound cheerful. "I was just thinking about New Year's Eve. Do you have any plans?" Jacob took a sip of his coffee, his brows furrowing. "I've got a ton of work, Amy. The end of the year is always crazy. Plus, the guys and I were thinking about having a get-together." "Why?" Amy's heart sank, but she masked her disappointment with a smile. "Oh, nothing specific. I just thought maybe we could do something special, just the—" Jacob shrugged, seemingly oblivious to her disappointment. "I don't know, Amy. It's going to be tough to get away. You know how it is with the business and everything?" Amy nodded, feeling a knot form in her stomach. "Yeah, I understand. It's just... I thought we could have a romantic evening. You know?" Jacob reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "I know, and I'd love that, but you know how hectic things are right now. Let's plan something for January, okay? A weekend getaway, just you and—" Amy forced a smile, trying to hide her hurt. "Sure, January sounds great." The conversation shifted to mundane topics, but Amy's mind was elsewhere. She couldn't shake off the feeling of disappointment. Her dreams of a magical proposal at the winter fairytale cabin seemed to be slipping away. After they finished their coffee, Jacob stood up, checking his watch. "I've got to run, babe. Big meeting. We'll talk later, okay?" "Okay," Amy replied quietly, watching him leave. Once he was gone, she sat there for a long moment staring at her empty cup. The realization that her romantic expectations might not align with Jacob's practical life was a cold wake-up. Later that evening, Amy met Diane at the same cafe. "He's so busy, Diane. He didn't even consider the idea of spending New Year's Eve together," she confessed, her voice tinged with sadness. Diane reached across the table, covering Amy's hand with her own. "I'm sorry, Amy, but maybe it's for the best. You don't want to force a moment like this. It should happen naturally." Amy nodded, knowing Diane was right. But deep down, she couldn't help feeling like her dream proposal was just that, a dream. The chilling reality that her fairy tale might not come true was a bitter pill to swallow. In the soft glow of her bedroom lamp, Amy sat cross-legged on her bed, surrounded by scattered magazines filled with romantic getaway destinations. Each page was a reminder of her dwindling hopes for the perfect proposal she had envisioned. The ring, once a symbol of excitement, now felt like a heavy burden of unmet expectations. Her phone rang, breaking the silence. It was Diane. "Hey, Amy, how are you holding up?" Diane's voice was tinged with concern. Amy sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I'm okay, I guess. Just been doing some thinking." Diane's voice softened. "About Jacob and the proposal." "Yeah, I'm starting to feel like I'm lost in a labyrinth, Diane. I'm chasing this idea of a perfect proposal, a perfect moment, but maybe it's just not meant to be." Amy's voice quivered slightly. Diane was silent for a moment before replying. Love isn't about perfection, Amy. It's about the real, the messy, the unexpected. Maybe it's time to let go of how you think it should happen and just let it unfold. Amy pondered Diane's words. I know you're right, but it's hard. I've always dreamed of this moment, and now it feels like it's slipping away. Listen, Amy, Diane said earnestly, Jacob loves you. That's what matters. Whether he proposes under a Christmas tree or on a random Tuesday, it won't change the way he feels about you. Amy considered this. I guess I've been so caught up in my own fairy tale that I've forgotten what's really important. It's okay to dream, Amy. Just don't let those dreams blind you to what you already have, Diane advised gently. Amy nodded, even though Diane couldn't see her. I'll try. It's just not easy, you know. I know, Diane said warmly, but I'm here for you, no matter what happens. The conversation with Diane helped Amy see things in a new light. She realized that her focus on creating the perfect proposal scenario had led her away from appreciating the real and profound connection she shared with Jacob. As she lay in bed that night, Amy made a decision. She would try to let go of her tightly held expectations and open her heart to the possibilities of what their love story could be, without the constraints of a perfect proposal narrative. In the labyrinth of love, she understood now, it was not about finding the perfect path, but about enjoying the journey, twists and turns included. Amy was at her desk, lost in a report, when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Diane. Lunch today. I have news. Curious and eager for a break, Amy agreed. They met at a quaint cafe downtown, a place that had become their sanctuary for heart-to-heart. As soon as Amy sat down, Diane's eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and secrecy. Guess who I ran into today at work? Who? Amy asked, her curiosity piqued. Jacob's father, Mr. Williams. We ended up having a long chat, Diane began. Amy leaned in, intrigued, and Diane lowered her voice. I might have mentioned your dream of spending New Year's Eve at the Winter Fairytale cabin. Amy's heart skipped a beat. You didn't. I did, and you won't believe it. He thinks it's a wonderful idea. He hinted he might talk to Jacob about it. He said something about making the holiday season special for family and loved ones. A flicker of hope ignited in Amy's chest. But what about Jacob's plans with his friends? Diane shrugged. His dad seemed pretty confident he could sway Jacob's decision. Said something about the importance of making grand gestures for the ones we... Amy felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Diane, I don't want to get my hopes up. What if it doesn't happen? Then it doesn't, Diane said gently. But Amy, sometimes a little nudge from someone else is all it takes. And if it's meant to be, it will happen. Just don't put all your eggs in this one basket, okay? Amy nodded, a smile tugging at her lips. Okay, I'll try to keep a level head about this. Thank you, Diane. They continued their lunch, chatting about other things. But Amy's mind kept drifting back to the possibility of her dream proposal becoming a reality. The thought of Jacob choosing to spend New Year's Eve with her, in a romantic cabin, rekindled the flame of hope that had started to dim in her heart. Later that evening, Amy lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The ray of hope Diane had given her flickered in her thoughts. She knew she had to prepare herself for any outcome, but deep down, she couldn't help but cling to the dream that this New Year's Eve might be the beginning of her forever with Jacob. The days leading up to New Year's Eve passed in a blur for Amy. She was a mix of nerves and excitement, each passing hour either a step closer to her dream or a potential disappointment. On the eve of the big day, Amy found herself packing for the cabin. She had decided to go ahead with the reservation, encouraged by Diane's news and her own flickering hope. As she folded a beautiful blue dress, the one she had chosen especially for the occasion, her phone rang. It was Jacob. Hey, Amy, are you busy? Jacob's voice sounded more relaxed than usual. Just packing. I have a cabin booked for New Year's, remember? Amy tried to keep... Oh, right, the cabin. Listen about that. Jacob hesitated. Amy's heart sank. You can't make it, can you? There was a brief silence before Jacob replied, actually. I was thinking, maybe I can join you. Just for a night, though. I've got to be back early for a meeting. Joy and relief flooded through Amy. Really? That would be amazing, Jacob. Great, I'll drive up tomorrow afternoon. See you then, Amy, Jacob said, a hint of a smile in his voice. The next day, as Amy arrived at the winter fairytale cabin, the setting was as perfect as she had imagined. The cabin was nestled among snow-laden trees, its lights casting a warm glow against the twilight. Inside, the fireplace crackled invitingly, and through the window, the snow continued to fall in a gentle dance. As the hours ticked by, Amy prepared for the evening. She dressed carefully, the blue dress fitting her like a dream, her hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. She looked at herself in the mirror, her heart racing with anticipation. When Jacob finally arrived, he looked tired but happy to see her. This place is incredible, Amy. You really went all out, he said, taking in the cozy ambience. Amy smiled, her eyes shining. I wanted it to be special. Come on, let's have dinner. They sat down to a meal Amy had prepared, the table set with candles and fine china. They talked and laughed, the tension easing as the evening wore on. As midnight approached, they stepped outside to watch the fireworks. The sky lit up with colours, each burst reflecting in Amy's hopeful eyes. Jacob turned to her, taking her hands in his. Amy, this is really amazing. Thank you for planning all of this. Amy looked up at him, her heart in her throat. Jacob, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. But before she could continue, Jacob interrupted her. Amy, I need to tell you something too. But let's go back inside. It's freezing out here. Puzzled but patient, Amy followed him back into the cabin. The moment of truth was upon them, and as the clock struck midnight, her heart beat in time with the ticking, waiting for Jacob's words that could either weave her dream into reality or unravel it entirely. Back inside the warmth of the cabin, the fireplace crackling softly, Amy watched as Jacob paced the room, a troubled look on his face. The anticipation was unbearable, her heart pounding against her chest. Jacob, what is it? You're making me nervous, Amy said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jacob stopped and faced her, taking a deep breath. Amy, I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us? About everything? Amy felt a cold shiver run down her spine. What are you saying, Jacob? He ran a hand through his hair, struggling to find the words. I love you, Amy. I really do, but I'm not ready. Not for marriage. Not for an engagement. I'm sorry. The room seemed to spin around her, Amy's dream shattering into a million pieces. But the ring, I thought. Jacob's eyes widened. The ring? Oh, Amy, that was my mum's. I was holding on to it for my sister. I never meant to give you the wrong idea. Tears welled up in Amy's eyes, her dream of a perfect proposal, a fairy tale ending, crumbling around her. I don't understand. I thought we were heading towards a future together. Jacob took her hands in his own eyes glistening. We are just not at the pace you're hoping for. I need more time, Amy. I can't jump into this without being absolutely sure. Amy pulled her hands away, her heart breaking. I've been so foolish, building castles in the sky. I thought this was it, Jacob. I thought this was our forever. Jacob tried to reach out to her, but she stepped back. I need some time, Jacob, to think. He nodded, his expression one of regret. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. The door closed behind Jacob, leaving Amy alone in the cabin that was supposed to be the beginning of her happily ever after. She stood there, staring at the closed door, the silence enveloping her. As the fire slowly died down, Amy wrapped her arms around herself. Outside, the snow continued to fall, each flake a reminder of her broken dreams. In that moment, she realized that sometimes the most painful lessons were cloaked in the guise of a fairy tale. The epilogue of Amy's story wasn't one of joyful celebration under the stars, but a poignant reminder of love's complexities and the harsh truths that often lay hidden behind the most beautiful of illusions. In the quiet aftermath of her shattered dreams, she understood that the path to true happiness wasn't found in perfect moments, but in embracing life's unpredictable journey, with all its twists and turns.